I'm going to hit all 4 of the new PXG Gen 8 Lightning drivers. Now the drivers we have in the lineup are the Gen 8 Lightning. We have the Tour Mid, the 10K and the 10K Lite. Nope, it's the Max Lite. So maybe because there's less mass in it, they can't quite get to 10K. But it's a very lightweight, flingy, fast head to get the ball as far as possible. Let's have a bash. So let's have a little warm up, but I'm gonna use the same shaft and I'm gonna go as neutral in the settings in each head that I can. And the shaft I'm using, not this one, is the Denali Frost Blue, and this is a standard shaft in the PXG lineup. There are other shafts available, but I've got this in a 60 gram 6.5, and as it happens, spine aligning, the spine is at this side of the writing, so it does put the writing on top, which means I can use a flatter setting. Now, for the purpose of the exercise, I'm actually going to use the PXG Extreme Tour X to keep it brand consistent. Wow, that does feel light. That does indeed feel light. Now this is 189 grams in the head instead of 205. So what that might mean that you can do with this lighter head is you can play the shaft longer to have a normal weight, a normal swing weight, or you can play it at standard length and have a lighter swing weight so you can move the mass faster, albeit less mass. In this light head, I only have it in 10.5, but the other 3 heads I'm going to compare are all 9-degree heads. Because I can't see many 9-degree players using the Max Light. It's going to be more for that 10.5, 12-degree kind of driver user who needs a little bit of help getting the ball airborne. Gen 8 Light. And I've also got some other shafts that I want to use in a future video. Whoa, that does feel nice. Why has the line gone left? Anyway, the ball also went miles left. When you have a lighter head, and obviously I'm making excuses for that shot. When you have a lighter head, it's easier to get the club back into the ball because you've got less mass to use, so you're more likely to get that lighter head back into the ball with a more closed face, in theory. So if someone slices the ball a lot and they want a little bit of help getting that ball back online, we don't have the adjustable weights in this driver. We don't have weights to play around with. We've got one port at the back with one fixed weight in there. Well, fixed weight, you can adjust it. But you can only put it in that place. You can't put it in the heel to try and help that draw. You're kind of stuck with having it back there. But part of the idea of the existence of this driver is that we can get a bit more speed and we can encourage less slice, more draw, but the product does exist for a reason. It's for the slicer, it's for the person that leaves the ball out to the right that's maybe a little bit slower than they'd like to be. It's lighter, we get it back into the ball more, we get it back online from that right bad shot. My miss is over to the left anyway, and it encourages my miss to happen a little bit more, so it's not the driver for me. But I suppose someone that does hit a big draw already, you could potentially use this idea to make sure, to get on the golf course and go, right, you definitely need to get left of where I start the golf ball, just so you know where that miss is. That could be an idea in a certain scenario, but not that often. So let's take this head off, and you need a little knock sometimes just to get the head loose. And we're going to go same loft setting, but a 9-degree head. I've got 9-degree in the other 3 drivers. We're going to go like that. And this is the 9-degree Max 10K. It comes with a 15 gram and 2 blanks. And I think the blanks are 2.5 grams, but they are lighter than the heavier one. So in the eyes of neutrality, I'm going to put the heaviest weight at the back. Do that up there. And then the 2 lighter weights in the front, so we don't have any draw or fade bias in there. And throw it on the floor. Now these weights are easy enough to take out and put back in. If you do want to tinker with your direction, that feels absolutely solid. It is quite a distinctive PXG noise. It's more of a thud, and it does sound a lot less tinny. We've got a fair amount of like carbon fibre on the bottom of this club. We've also got a fair amount of carbon fibre on the top of this club. So it's not an all carbon driver like you get in the TaylorMade. You've got like a metal frame around the outside here that holds the weight and the weight, but it is quite a carbony feel, which I'm not against in the slightest. And I've got that little bit of a left lean on there. Not as much as the light. The light is like 25 yards further left than that. But it's going all right. Now sometimes when you have a really forgiving driver and you get all that weight to the back of the head to reduce that off-center twisting, you do create a higher flight with more spin. So this 10K feels fantastic. It feels like I can hit it anywhere on the face and it's going to launch. But I might have to try a little bit harder in terms of loft and shaft and weights for me to get this driver to get low enough to go forward enough to get maximum distance out of it. But I would very much quite happily use this on the golf course because I know it's going to hit the target pretty well. And if we get this shaft out of this head, and there will be an element of me getting warmer as I go through these drivers, so bear that in mind. We're going to go for the Lightning Tour mid. Now the mid doesn't look massively bigger than the Tour. It actually looks quite similar to the naked eye. Same settings. Now we've got the same weights as the Max 10K. We've got a 15 and we've got 2 blanks or 2 2.5s. So we can only put that heaviest mass in one of these 3 ports. We've got 2 ports at the front, heel and toe. We've got 1 port at the back. Now the most neutral setting I can do here is to put that heaviest weight at the back. And when we go to the Tour head, we do have a different setup there. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, whether you're watching it now while the driver is brand new to the market, or whether you're watching it in 2 years' time when they're maybe a better price than the Gen 9 drivers are out, which, you know, they'll exist one day. It could be that you can't get the Tour head, you can only get the Tour mid or something like that. You can get aftermarket weights and put them in here, and potentially you could get a Tour to behave like a mid or a mid to behave like a Tour if you get the relevant weights in there. So we've got 1 15 gram in the Tour mid and we've got 2 7.5 grams in the Tour, which we'll see in a second. Same tee, same ball. Oh, we have changed the look of the driver when we go to this Tour mid. When we go to this Tour, it is much squarer at address. There's not much sticking out around here, for example. Like it is really, really nice actually behind the ball there. Now sometimes they toe in, sometimes they sit open. This just seems to sit very nice and square without having to manipulate it behind the ball, which is lovely. And then in the light there, I like the looks of that. That looks very nice. And I'm really looking forward to comparing these to the new Callaway drivers. I can't remember what they're called, but they're going to come in when they come in. I'll probably be choosing a driver in the bag between these two, but that looks delightful. Oh, that's nice. Now, when I looked at this shaft in the mini driver, I noticed that I really like this shaft. But when you've got the wrong head on it, it can then maybe distract you from knowing whether the head shaft's any good, for example. But that was very nice. It's a very nice. And we're going to get a chance to see the difference between these heads in more neutral settings on neutral loft. Okay, so I've got standard loft on here, but flatter, but ideally, to maximize them, to get the flight down, to get the spin down, I want to go lower lofted, get the spine in the right place on that loft setting to really try and get some mileage out of it. But, you know, if I know that one looks good behind the ball and feels good off the face, I can start trying to fine tune it after that. Barely even gone left. That's sort of like my normal shape, my normal pattern. Now I do normally get more distance than this, and I wouldn't necessarily put that down to these heads, more in what settings can I do on them later in future videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, where's that pink tee gone? Well, I only got 1 tee left. They're all down there. Tees. And there is actually the golf ball as well. These golf balls maybe spin a bit more than others, so I'm going to see higher spin rates from the settings in the head and the golf ball itself. But while I'm using standardized golf ball and settings, I'm just seeing what each one does in relation to each other. I could get on board with that. Again, a bit of work to do to fine tune the flight, but it feels very fairway finding. Lower spinning ball, lower loft, and maybe some different weight settings in the head. Feel like I could get that going quite nicely. Maybe some different shafts. Oh, there's so many things we can do, which is why I love it. Little knocks to get the head off. And we finally have the Lightning Tour. 3 weights, 2 7.5 gram weights, which in the eyes of neutrality, I'm going to put them both at the front. So this is gonna make a difference in theory compared to the Tour mid head. But if I put the two heavier weights anywhere but here, I'm then looking at making it draw or fade biased. And I just want to keep all the weights in the middle in this video anyway. 1, 2, and a blank. So same loft, 9 degrees, apart from that first one. Flat setting, so I've got the spine in the right place. Just because this shaft spine is annoyingly where the writing goes on the top. Does that look even better than the mid? I think that looks just as good as the mid, if not slightly better. It does look slightly smaller to the trained eye, but you probably wouldn't notice it if you're not really looking for that sort of thing. Oh, that's nice. Oh, you do get some marks on this carbon fibre that do come off, but they do show up while you're mucking around. But that looks awesome. Let's see what it does. Ooh, it's gone right. Was that me or was that the club? So it did feel heavier, even though it is like 0.4 grams different. So there's not actually any weight difference that anyone would really notice. Could just be the first swing being bad. Oh, that was awful. Oh, are we gonna have something that's less forgiving? Let's pretend they didn't happen and hit 3 more. The weight feels different, even though it's the same head weight overall. The weights are just at the front instead of at the back. And I'm feeling a different rebound off the face. Now, it could be that this shaft is softer than others I've used, so I noticed that more. That was a little bit more solid. Maybe it helps if I actually hit the face on the fairway. Ooh. Ah, these golf balls do spin too much. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it was a swing thing. It was the swing. That's better. One more, then we'll look at the statistical data, shall we? Oh, a little left. Okay, that's a swing thing. Feels more solid off the middle, but it does feel when you get it off the centre a bit more deflecty. That's not to say that a stiffer shaft might reduce that feeling, because this does feel a bit soft. Well, compared to a Velocore Black anyway, which everything probably feels softer than. Well, apart from a Tour AD VF. That's a lamppost. Shafts for future videos, Velocore Black, this is the USA edition, and the Acra TZ6 Proto M5. Got some saucy shafts to compare, so don't forget to subscribe. And one thing I will say as well is these head covers look fantastic. I like the black and white in there. Not that that's everything, but if you've got a black and white tour bag like this, that looks the absolute nuts in that bag. And as sad as it may be, I kind of want this to work because I want that head cover in that tour bag. But if the colourway's better, then the colourway's better. We shall see later. That's a BGT Brava shaft in there, by the way. Auto flexi. Okay, so data wise, I'm going to ignore the first 2 on the tour because I think they were just lazy swings. But if we have a look at the peak heights, we've got the Gen 8 Lite, we have 105 peak heights, and I think that's going to be lower because that face turned over more. That does reduce the overall height sometimes. We've got an 85 up to 124, a bit more variance. Again, a bit too light, too forgiving for me, but there's an average there anyway. And then we go to the Max 10K, we've got much more uniform height at 117. 117 again on blue one, which is the Tour mid. And then once I've stopped faffing around, we've got 112 on the Tour. Angle of descent 39.1 on the Tour, coming in lower, running more. Coming in steeper in the Tour mid, 42.6. That weight at the back possibly contributing to that. Same in the 10K, 42.8. A little bit shallower in the 40.3 in the Light. And draw spin between the lot is 213 in the Tour, 145 in the Tour mid. Okay, so not too far apart in terms of directional spin. On average, 2 yards left. On average, 4.5 yards left. Tour mid to Tour. Not a big difference there. Just slight difference in height and a difference in spin. Okay, we'll see that in a sec. 12.2 yards left in the Max 10K, 56.9 yards left in the Light. That's doing its job really, really well. Yeah, that is what it is. That's a different beast. But 409 draw spin against 1,000 draw spin. So we do have a bit more draw in the Max 10K, the Tour mid and the Tour fairly similar. So ball speeds are all sitting around about the same. We've got 163.2. So the Light isn't necessarily faster, but it is easier to change that pattern into the ball, get that face closed down a bit more because of that reduced weight. 162.8, 163, 163. All looking pretty similar there. I'm not seeing a massive jump between them. We've got the highest launch in the Tour and slightly lower launch with higher spin in the Tour Mid and the 10K. With those two heavy weights at the front in the Tour, I think that's just knuckling that spin down more so than the Tour Mid with the weight at the back. Weight at the back on the 10K, I feel like that's more forgiving on the off-center hit. That's a little bit of a bridge between the two maybe. 272, 268, 272, 274, so a tiny bit more into the Tour Mid, 289 in the Tour because I've got that front loaded weight with lower spin, albeit 2 bad swings before I hit those 3. And directions at the top here are all looking quite tight together. The light is just a different beast. But there we go, that was fun. A few little differences between the heads there. I think the weights in the Tour Mid and the Tour are giving it that lean in what the club is there to do. Maybe if we get that 15 gram in the Tour Mid at the front toe or the front heel, maybe that could help us get lower butt lean one way or another. I'll have a little play around with the weights in a future video and hopefully see you there. Have a good day.